Oh, okay.
You might.
And it starts at 4:15, so.
Oh, you're good.
You're fine. Good. Ready? Okay. Calling to order the February 21st, 2023 meeting, Historic Resources Commission here at 111 North Front Street. However, we have room
205.
We are 205, okay, in room 205. The next business meeting of the commission will be Thursday, March 2nd, 2023 at noon in room 204, 111 North Front Street. The next hearing of the commission being Thursday, March 16th at 4 p.m., room 204, 111 North Front Street. Swearing in. You swear to tell the truth, and testimony before the commission is evening.
I do, Jacqueline Lehman.
So thank you, Jacqueline. Introduction of the commissioners here present this evening, starting on my left.
Michael Fort?
Tamika Baba.
Joseph McCabe.
Medicine.
Is there any items for public forum this evening? Public forum, moving on to approval of staff approvals. These are the staff approvals. Having a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, any further discussion regarding the staff approvals today? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes, staff approvals approved. Moving on to the meetings from January 19th, 2022. Sorry, January 19th, that's 2023. Second,
Second.
having a motion and a second, any further discussion regarding the minutes from January 19th, 2023? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes, minutes have been approved. On to certificates of appropriateness for this evening, and starting with the staff reports and case number 1.
For number 1, we have 1169 Brighton Road. And this is for a change of use and variance recommendation request. So that change of use is from an assistance care facility, and that is changing to use as a home for the elderly. There are some variances associated with keeping the existing parking situation as it is. So there are no significant changes. And that's to retain the parking spaces and to reduce those required from 62 to 34, and to reduce the minimum lot area from 500 square feet. To that number there. So at the February business meeting, the commissioners that were present were supportive of the variance request, especially because there were no exterior changes. However, we did not have a quorum to move to staff approvals. That's why the commission's agenda for today is a staff item. So staff recommends an affirmative recommendation of application HR 2302016 at 1169 Brighton Road. The basis for that staff recommendation is that this is generally consistent with the city code standards for alteration and the Columbus Register historic properties guidelines.
And as I recall, this is just, again, for reiteration for everybody's benefit, it's just a recommendation of variances, not approval on variances. I actually remember this case when it came through, when I was a vacant building, and the commission actually supported the adaptive reuse of this project just a few years ago. You put life back into. I'm supporting this. Sure. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and testimony before the commission this evening.
I do.
State your full name and association with the property, correct?
My name is Jack Reynolds. I'm the attorney for both the applicant and the property owner. And you are correct. We were in front of you all in 2019. The building was in disrepair. Continental took it over, renovated it. They're changing the operation model from an assisted care to housing for the elderly. And under the city code, there are different regulations associated with the housing for the elderly. So you're looking at the two that we need to have there. Nothing is changing. It's just how it's licensed.
Is a motion to make positive recommendation on these variances?
So moved.
Okay, so there's a motion to give an affirmative recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion and second, any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes.
Thank you all, and thank you for making the time to get this done.
You'll make your next meeting too.
I am good.
1 minute.
I got a minute. I'll be there in time.
Case number 2, 1445.
I'll rush over there.
You could raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and testimony for the commission. State your full name and association with the property. Yeah, Matt Leisure, principal designer.
This is for 1445 7th Street. So the request is to install a new design for the parking lot fencing. The applicant has asked that the request could be considered as a request for action, and they have solicitation. Wait, they feel ready to have that put up for a vote. The applicant also checked with building and zoning, and it's required. So we have that checked off the list. Now, from the February business meeting, the commissioners present noted that they had no objections to the fencing design that was presented, and that the design appeared to be simple and fit with the site. So the commission asked that view shed photos be submitted from the residents to the southeast to confirm whether the headlights will affect this property. And noted that if headlights will affect the property, landscaping or screening may be needed for that lot to prevent that. The applicant has submitted revised materials, including a proposal to add ornamental grasses such as prairie drop seed at the east end, as well as English ivy against the wall. And of course, as mentioned, the applicant has confirmed with the zoning department that no variances are required unless height and location of the fence are to change from this approval. And the applicant is requesting for the proposal to be reviewed as an action item for a vote of action. So the staff recommendation is to recommend approval of application HR 2301-008, 1435 7th Street with the following stipulations. And that is that the applicant consider alternate plant coverings, the ivy, and that's just because the ivy tends to be an invasive species that spreads quite rapidly. Yeah, it hands pretty quickly. So that staff recommendation is based on the standards for site improvements, specifically letters A and B, as well as the guidelines for fences on page 76.
Just a couple of things from last time.
So.
So there were a couple questions about the headlights and the one corner of the parking lot. We are like right on the edge, as you can see. So what we try to do is increase the thickness of the fence from 25% to 35%, which I think is probably better design. And we also want to plant the vine up against the wall. We're happy to look at a different species that's moving. So one thing that's tricky, just so you all know, there's nowhere else to really plant anything except against the wall. So there's no space between the pavement, parking lot, the retaining wall, and then there's no space on the other side of the retaining. So that's really the only place we can put material. So the vine would have to grow up the side of the wall and kind of around, which we would need a train to do. So it'll take a little bit to get established, but that's kind of the secondary strategy to.
If I recall from our discussion last time, there was a safety concern about really blocking the headlights because then the view into that parking lot, since the parking lot's elevated, it would really cut off the entirety of the view. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is a little different condition than typical parking lot screening situation because the parking lots change above the sidewalk. So you're not seeing over the screening into the parking lot.
Right.
The screening is totally blocking the view. So the
main thing driving this whole conversation is just a lot of security concerning the owner, because there's no visibility into
Right.
if that fence has installed or has originally proposed.
And so you're proposing 65% would be open versus 35% would be material, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
understood.
I recall also too, page 5 is relevant in the submission where we consider headlights in positioning houses, even though the cars are elevated, considering the security concerns, considering all these other things. We did a little bit of look, and though typically there is a headlight screening requirement, most of the commissioners are willing to look past the fact that there's no immediate living room windows or anything directly across the way. It looks like mostly the screening effects directly across the street. So a little unusual, a little incident.
So at the business meeting, we discussed it, and we did come back. So if you see the view shed, so just that go back one. That corner, we figured that view A, that might be the only one. And so I think that's why the screening, the additional screening that applicant's doing is to alleviate that concern. Because that house does, will have a little bit of an impact. So I appreciate him adding the lines. So I'd love to hear from our commissioner, that's about what other species, I don't know. Because if it is obviously it's a invasive species or it's a weed, then that's an issue, but is there anything? Yeah.
Yeah, and I have actually looked, I'm gonna defer to Lane, you being the landscape architect and the expert on this too. I would love for you to address that, but then also if you go to page 8 real quick. While we say there's only space for plantings down here for things that are across, should they be planting anything here to then also equally come from that direction as well? It seemed like this is kind of just kind of a big blank block in going on right now, and it seems like it's kind of in balance, but I defer to.
Right, I mean, if the goal is to have some sort of binding plant that would carry over. Maybe is an obvious choice. You may also look at Virginia Creek, which is more of a native species, maybe a little easier to see. And then along that corner, I would consider something hardy, the boxwood or taxus, to kind of fill in that void. Could plant another Virginia creeper there, help spread across.
So I figured it's not gonna cross the stairwell.
Right. And you would have maintenance out, taking care of that, making sure it's come back. Have a plan for every few years. And all of it back. Take over pretty.
Oh, is there right in the middle?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. Could you go back to the site plan? Go ahead, Tamika, sorry.
Oh, no.
And if this has already been discussed in this piece, that's fine, but just looking at the two easternmost parking spaces, like we said, for the most part, those headlights are gonna be shining into a backyard, which they already have a fence up, and we could say minimizing that is not a huge issue, but in addition to the plant, which may take some time, is there any other consideration to those few parking spaces we think might be appropriate, just to minimize the headlights shedding on the house?
I'm kind of willing to live with this a little bit.
What's that?
I'm kind of willing to live with this a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit of an exception. The site condition's sort of unique, given the elevated nature of the parking lot.
Right,
And hearing the security concern.
right. I mean, there's a number of factors we're considering. If it were just headlights on a house, we'd probably have a different viewpoint.
If the parking lot were not in its current point and the wall was not so far in basically being done and complete.
Yeah.
There might have been a different approach to this whole thing.
Sure. Okay.
Like, they have a half complete project.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Right.
The additional
Going in the right
screening is
direction.
in the right direction.
Would staff feel comfortable? Changes regarding additional planting on west side, yeah, west side, and then just finalizing the species. doing some cleanup work on it.
And I'm pretty sure Virginia Cooper's somewhere. So, yeah, so we can get it.
So I mean, I think I'd be okay with moving this from conceptual to final as well.
Or sorry, for O2 HR 2301-008, Summit Street, move to approve with conditions of staff approval, making additional selections of plants on the west side, and approval of the new proposed screening of 35%.
Motion is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion second, further discussion. Staff. Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. 427 Cleveland Avenue.
Right here.
Yeah, at least it'll hit that one
It
corner
will
right away.
start,
right?
yeah.
Chance. Great. Each raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and testimony you give.
I do.
Each state your full name and association with the property correct.
Peter Kenner, Director of Historic Preservation for Sandvik Architects.
Chris Watkins, I work for Rum Collaborative. We are the
Okay, so this is for 427 Cleveland Avenue. The proposals for new landscaping and hardscape, and that includes replacing existing hardscape with new landscaping, additional hardscape with some drawings. So the site work is to include new asphalt paving, concrete paving for pedestrian walkways and areas, stabilized aggregate paving and concrete pavers, as well as installation of 8-foot crimped wire mesh fencing, 8-foot pedestrian gate, 8-foot vehicular gate, and a 6-foot 6-inch louvered screen panel privacy fence, as well as installation of racks and bollards and ground cover trees. So previously, it's like exterior alterations were approved. But at the February business meeting, the commission noted the following. The commission requested planting specifics and lighting. Some elevation renderings to be submitted. The commission requested more details or drawings for any fencing. We're not certain about the wire fencing and how this will look. So requested by spec info in general. The commission requested the site plan include labels to help with clarity on locations of items and noted at first blush, the plan generally looks to be going in the right direction. So staff recommends continuing application HR 2210-022E 427 Cleveland Avenue to allow the applicant time to submit the final information for action review. That staff recommendation is based on the city code standards for site improvements, letters A and B.
What, yeah.
Well, I mean, I would just note that since the business meeting did submit, you know, a much more comprehensive package of drawings. So hopefully you all got a chance to see those. Okay, yeah, I think that's what you're. This is the previous. Well, I apologize if those didn't get to you. That's the. But we do have quite a bit more information. So yeah, that's, if you don't have that package, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry.
just helps expedite. the decision.
Sure, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think in general, I'll certainly can let Chris speak to the specifics, but fairly straightforward. Most of the landscaping is occurring to the back of the building. Won't really be a whole lot that's visible from the public right of way. You see that there's the little residential patios on the first floor at the west side of the building there, and those kind of connect into landscaping, but, you know, mixture of some hardscape. There was some question about the fencing, specifically the wire fencing that was the concern.
Well, generally, we'd like to look at what it looks and feels like, and sort of feels, I think that is what we just have the images to go with.
Okay,
The
so-
reality, so just, want to confirm that, and also for record, we should have it. So that was it. Similarly, the planting, just small details, where the bike, even bike parking, where's that located, lighting, what's the other, just, we can just, that we have it all.
Okay, sure.
Right, so lighting, we like the light fixture.
Light fixtures, things like that, yeah.
Up lighting versus landscape lighting versus posts and decorative fixtures.
Speak to it a little bit. I think you guys will be pleased with the set you received. It has a photo of the spot specifically for the wire fence, which is actually sleep that we look to pull exterior, which is where we originally had it from. We have the full elevation of that in the drawings. Lighting, we added a lighting sheet that shows, identifies the full mounted lights in the southern kind of triangle there just south of the building. Middle lighting is being added, or at least from the landscape point of view, the elevation, basically the nav. And planting, we have specific tree, and understory planting called out. Set.
And I had some questions regarding, it's like, what are they exactly?
Yeah.
Want to use the product, tell us about the product, the finished product.
Definitely. There's actually very little of that within this area.
Right.
I'll just kind of go around, start.
Yeah, walk me through the hardscape conditions.
Totally, will do. So there is a 5-foot walk just on the southern facade. That's just, like room finished concrete. And the rest is vehicular, asphalt. The east side remaining unchanged, so just patching concrete where needed. The pavers only occur on the north side of the building where it says south entry. That's just kind of, just like accent pavers to the entrance of the neighborhood. And then they occur on the kind of like scalloped half circles on the northern west elevation, which are private patios for units. Those pavers
So
are.
we also not had pavers though in this.
Yes, correct. Sorry, I need to expand my visual skill. Those particularly are hexagonal pavers manufactured by Unilock. They will be permeable. Is that something that we're working with the UK to get credit on? And then the light gray blocks are natural gray, or sorry, concrete. And then the only other paving type you'll see is within that dimpled triangle, and then just east of the decomposed aggregate, just various spaces where you can see.
So you use the word decomposed aggregate, thinking they're very like. You're trying to say stabilized aggregate, because I just had a question about what you know is the material.
It will be decomposed granite, which is the kind of stabilizers in it. And it's like it's like a fine material but it does have stabilizers in it so that it will lock in the ADA compliant, and it's the color is a light brown. that spec is within the set as well. That is called up within the color and.
If we set that we see this next round, if there could be just a sheet that has just color images, that might be real. For being able to, because like the hexagonal pavers, I would have never
Yeah.
arrived at that conclusion based on the concrete pavers and the rectangular
Definitely.
patch show.
Yeah, these were quite early on in this initial drawing, and then we were able to advance it considerably between what is on screen here and.
Does the commission want to see some form of sample or anything? Wire mesh? Or just.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we just have to see the set.
Yeah, you know what, I'm looking here, I emailed it on February 8th, but I did it like in reply to the comments that you sent from the business meeting. Does that usually work, or? Yeah, I don't know what.
Is there anything we can do? I mean, is it beneficial to bring up on a phone and pass around and share?
Yeah.
Okay, totally understand.
Sorry.
It's all good.
Yeah, it's like a 13 megabyte attachment. Yeah, I didn't get like a bounce back or anything, so.
Sent an email that sent out a week later. So I can see what happened. It didn't let me put that it was too much, which is.
Oh, okay.
Maybe responsible.
Can you describe what you're doing with the lighting?
Yeah, the lighting is quite simple. Once again, I'll kind of start on Cleveland Ave. All existing street lighting is remaining. We're adding 3 pedestrian light poles, which settings more than like the 10 to 12 foot range on the southern triangle, just to like the roadway that matches the spec that we're using elsewhere in the site. And then the rest is occurring kind of along those arced pathways. Those are about 8 feet high, and it just has kind of like a small 90-degree return on them, and then just shining, dark sky cut off and shining down the pathway. No tree uplands.
Pictures of those in the.
No pictures, but we do have the specific spec number, but I can do that as another supplement. So
You
I
can
can
just-
just material
Do
in
you,
my.
do you cut sheets on both of those? Just some different cut sheets on that. Does it sound like there's any big issues for the rest of the commission here?
We just need all the details.
I'm just trying to flat
Big
ticket, any big issues for them now?
Well, and then I think, yeah, just the amount of it, I think the level of information, because again, a lot of that would have been there, but I think that, so the pictures of the paving materials, the fencing, we already did, we did a picture of.
I'm just trying to help them.
The light poles.
Okay, so as long as we see that final package, it sounds like,
Yeah,
we should be fine to dot i's and cross t's and.
yeah, once I send the new attachment, I'm gonna send you a separate email just to confirm that it came through this time. So, thanks. Apologies for the mix up.
Would this ever be a case that we can potentially consider moving this to staff approval based on the next round? This is being happy. Staff can get comfortable.
Still could be possible. We just need to have forms to be able to have action.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate it.
And then a motion to continue.
Oh.
You want me to make motion to continue application HR 2210, 022B, 427B?
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes.
Super.
Thank you.
East 19th Avenue.
But I'll picture that next week. Use myself in this.
We will duly note
All
that.
right.
Thank you. You don't have to leave the room, but you do.
Yes. All right.
After both here, we'll just sworn in. Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth in your testimony for the commissioners. I do. State your full name and association with property. Matt McGrath, landscape architect. And then for the record, let it reflect that Mr. Chumika is refusing this case. Jack.
So this application is for 420 East 19th Avenue. And also, so there's two applications here. One is for exterior work on the building, but then the second one that's going to be after this is for the landscaping, hardscaping portion. So for the exterior alterations, this includes work for masonry, new construction and replacement, new installations such as light fixtures, reinstalling cast iron railings, repairs the roof, existing skylights with new. Also includes demolition, such as the canopy that's located on the south elevation, and then demolition of the stairwell at the east elevation. So for the staff analysis regarding the canopies, it can be at the south elevation from staff perspective is a character defining feature. And so staff recommends obtaining a variance and retaining the appearing the canopy. And that's similar for the stairwell at the east elevation as part of that original 1960s design. To recommend repair and retain. General, at the February business meeting, the commission requested specific pages were infilled with louver, window, and doors proposed for clarification, and asked about the louver, such as if it was formerly a window. The commission asked if the new skylights would be like for like replacements, and if there was a replacement, such as for doors or terracotta, would be like to like the match. And the applicant has provided updated materials and responded to commission feedback and attached materials. Some of the feedback includes noting that the louver is not, there was not a window, it was always a louver. We have photos of that added into the application. That's, yeah, work will be like for like, with the exception of the skylights. So they will be replacing the skylights with new and the same size and location. They just won't look exactly the same. Feedback was asking about, and staff has submitted some updated materials just calling out some of the areas that the commission asked about. Staff recommendation is to recommend approval of application HR 2302-017 at 420 East 19th Avenue, which is Indianola Junior High School, and individually listed property. One stipulations, that is that the canopy and the stairwell be retained in repair. The basis for the staff recommendation is the city codes for alterations, specifically numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, as well as the guidelines, particular for lighting on page 7.
It's fun.
You mentioned
So with the light fixtures, you'd be coming back within the revisions.
We've examined the frame, so first we thought we would have to replace it. Set up the most precise.
So that would be a change in direction from what was initially. This thing fiberglass was that.
Sockets. So, and then it shows up as duplicate one of this.
As, how does staff feel about replacement of original wood fabric doors versus replicating with fiberglass? And the only question I bring in, but freeze with that image right there. You know, I think about, we have to treat this applicant no different than a single homeowner that comes in. And if a homeowner came in with the same wood door, would we not tell them to prove they can't rebuild it or repair it or replace in kind? So, yeah, treat every applicant fairly here. Does staff feel that these doors are not salvageable from your own observations, or has a case been made enough that these are worth simply replacing?
As far as the existing doors, we did do the site visit, as you can see in the photo, where those doors were shaped. Took a look at them. Now, as far as the new material, it's fiberglass requirements.
It's a way that also maintenance. Stores.
Worry about, you know, what does the inside now look like? Because you see a wood finish on the inside. So when, you know, although we don't, inside matters, you know, is painted wood exterior appropriate in this case?
It's not even painted wood, it's acrylic painted wood. From what fiberglass, painted to make it look like. Not really.
No, it's not really, but it does do the fiberglass. They know everything to do.
No, but I'm just saying currently right now, the original wood. So why would we not require, I mean, that's an aesthetic change from what we know as original. Okay. I've seen compelling, semi-compelling fiberglass products that start to mimic wood. But, you know, introducing what are essentially replacement doors, again, I'm not against it if the condition's not salvageable, but the question I have is, are we changing the aesthetics of the structure?
In the past, we said if you can, if the materials available in the market, there are people who can manufacture works on and all that. That's the issue, right? It's been on list.
I mean, so it's the same case for windows, it's the same case for lots of things.
Back to a finish on doors like this.
But, you know, I understand those things, but in case you just said the doors are very detailed, so when they're reproduced in fiberglass, they're going to be losing the level of detail, that is my concern.
This is not even-
On the fiberglass. I think for me, it's not the replacement maybe, but, you know, just like we replace window, we do have options for clad windows that, as long as the door mimics the original finish, I think maybe that's my concern.
I guess so for is this approved material? When does that kick in? When it should go to the approved material? Rather than just replacing like.
So for doors, usually it's with other primary elevations. And then for rear elevations, particularly, if it's not a slope door, fiberglass is commonly approved. I have one concern with fiberglass, is the finish, or just if it was approved texture, if the texture of wood. So something trying to be what it's not.
Could we see the elevation where this door is at, the architectural drawing?
I mean, most of the exterior doors are that door.
Yeah.
I just think it's a
Yeah.
character defining feature of the architecture that I just want to make sure we make the right decision.
Now, so I'm hearing it's a lot to do with care and maintenance. Which we've not let that be a reason previously.
Exceptions for wood windows and what led to the addition of clad windows into our guidelines was because new growth lumber doesn't last as long. Now, when you see too many people come back, you know, they appeared before this commission X number of years ago with my wood windows and now they need to be replaced. So, just want to make sure we get the right finish on the doors. Without subjective changes.
I know we discussed using the photo.
That does become a moving forward, that really would start one. If anybody else comes in and says, well,
No, this will be a test case scenario because we would want to make sure that in a test case approval, I think that lives up to the standards. You know, actually, this might be one very. See, once it's installed, like, okay, how does it? Did it give some preservation staff versus did it look faux and tacky or did it actually look okay? Like, yeah. Yeah, I think that's just as much of a concern.
Is this what would be considered the main elevation? Primary, okay. And the door that we're seeing in that photograph, that's that center door, right? So, and in terms of, there's a lot of interesting architecture going on there, but that it really is a character defining element on that elevation. And so I appreciate that we're talking about all this in depth because that is a piece that ties it to the historic nature of the building. So I'd also echo the other, members here in saying that if we were gonna approve something, we need to see some samples and more detail if we're gonna deviate from what we do.
That assembly of the. So currency.
Yeah.
And we are proposing. I didn't decide on this in the currency. And
Transom would remain, prepared to remain. That's another, love the fact that you're trying to maintain something. I also wonder though, finish to finish, how that potentially would look. If we had some new and some existing elements.
it would have to be. So. It can be finished. Also, yes, I know, so this out too. Principal school. So.
I mean, if that's not in the application though, I mean, that's not, you know. We're in a balance of safety. I do understand that, but we're also doing the historic structure and, you know. That starts to present, I think, material changes to the architecture. What is the rationale necessary?
It's the vandalism. Question itself. So to the last materials that could be put in.
That's something to understand is potentially allowing substitution of glass to meet a safety concern in school.
Sure.
And all the modern challenges of safety in school. I think that's a very different dynamic than let's just leave a solid.
Agreed, especially with the quantity of glass we're looking at here. I understand vandalism, but there's plenty of other spots to vandalize as well, so.
Right, you gotta go up 8 steps to pick the light that's halfway up the door versus the window that's down at the ground. It's already.
No, I'm very aware of that. Needs to be so.
Sure.
Observing that we want to last be strict with loss, but safety and all. We'd like to keep that material. Samples of indoor material, the rest of it, or metal like mattress, color, finished.
In fact, I think I would feel comfortable with staff reviewing the finish, and if there's any questions, staff could bring it then to the commission if there's anything that would feel. Sure, you have a question.
You know, on the back doors, we're gonna keep the access rather than grading it. I think that needs to be reflected on the packet. So matches to the site.
Staff's only recommendation or condition at this point will be a condition regarding the canopy of the stair routine. You've already agreed that the stair will be retained. You're also agreeing on the canopy being rebuilt.
That would be a
Yeah, I don't know that I would support a request to remove a character defining feature as well, and that's a later modification, but it is part of the 1960s aesthetic. Of the fabric of the building, so again, maybe. I think you have to have a compelling reason why demolition of keeping it. Especially. Just. It's up to one more, right? Which, yeah, it's got some lovely cool straps on it.
Mhm.
So the documents that are in front of us now, Jack, and those don't actually stipulate the work scope necessary to probably rebuild that.
Currently, they seem to.
Yeah. So we might need to see a supplemental packet though that actually speaks to the rebuilding and the work scope involved, because it looks like there's probably some.
I think we're in agreement to that. I think I'm back on the last discussion. Sixties entrance. Stair. We do have a doorway there.
Typically better than the commission's general acceptance to you maintain a door and whether you use it on the inside or wall or over, that's your purview. But you can fix the door. Just looks like a dark one. Does staff have any issues regarding, Bill on the project? Any further questions or anything, except for some of this, some of this, it's gonna get.
That's what we. And
Page number 11 of the drawing packet, there's. So looking at like there's an infill proposed right here. And then is that a new door next to it?
Okay, so that's what it can.
Got it. So you're proposing an infill on the openings well below that can.
Yeah, it's right next to it is existing. That area of the building is also will be used for bus drop. So buses will be. There.
What's the change of use on the inside that?
It's not that was it.
We get requests for infill all the time. Generally. Waited it unless there's a reason. Some revision to be made here. I guess, how do other commissioners feel about the infill? And that the canopy would stay, but are you okay with the infill of the door?
We go to the bridge.
Jackie, how much leeway is there really on that decision? In terms of the infill, it's an exterior element, nature of the building, maintaining existing doors.
Yeah, so actually, as you see, it's boarding, are there?
Yes.
So if there's a cabin, kind of also looks silly to have a cabin. This isn't like the
Oh,
door.
but the door, there's gonna be a door still to the left.
Right now the canopy is designed so that it has two
Right.
opening, the way it's positioned, it kind of starts at the top. So just canopy sits above two openings.
But what I would almost prefer is to task the applicant with coming back on a piece that we don't approve. Of the canopy removal, we come back with additional information
Mhm.
about what is behind this plywood. So that we could even have a discussion about what the right solution is. I mean, if there's simply no historic fabric even behind the plywood, it's probably maybe a different discussion. Then it's a question of what is the right infill to maybe even still look like a door. You're introducing a door here, but that's a new door because there is no door here?
There is a door.
Is it just a hollow metal door or something? I don't feel comfortable ruling on the beliefs. I would rather know the facts of what exists.
I think an elevation, show what you look like with whatever your recommendations are. To also react.
Is this follow-up on finish, maybe? Potential, so it would be a delay in decision on the door replacement. There's a lot of masonry repair. I see.
There's repair, siren,
Yeah.
painting.
Yeah, anything we don't.
It's like the main door of the canopy.
We don't want to hold them hostage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I do want to go to that kind of curvature roof piece. We can go back to the photo of it. So, keep going. So on your, wait there. So on your drawings, it doesn't, I don't, maybe I'm missing it, maybe it's further in the set. Do we have details about what you're doing? Restoration purposes? It's shown on the drawings, it just doesn't tell me what's actually happening to it. Just, obviously, you're not leaving it like that.
We are maintaining it. It's just a question.
So I think we need to have an answer on that.
Right, so some additional information on details discussing, some additional information on existing conditions. Maybe some samples, or images of proposed finishes.
So somebody want to take a stab at maybe a motion A, and we could peel out everything, accepting or continuing things that are not addressed here? Or should we just simply do a motion that just excludes things rather than break it into?
So we're saying the A application, the items we'd like to see
pushed forward.
push forward, brought back here to the commission.
No,
That was
B would be the items to come back, the items continued.
Oh, push forward, I hear you, okay.
A would be everything we could currently approve in this packet.
Okay. We say A is only related to B, so we're approving everything except for the item in B.
Yes, I would feel very comfortable with that.
Okay. Right. Take a crack at this. All right. Regarding application HR 2302-017-420 East 19th Street, Indiana Junior High School. I move to approve the application as presented, with the note that this is part A. And there are items in part B which we would like to review.
Continue.
And continue.
Do you want to speak to the general content, what's in A?
I'm hoping not to do that.
You can use the summary of probably the staff.
Including masonry cleaning, repointing, replacing bricks per noted location, sculpture, repainting, all the stonework, window work. Thank you. Louver.
The new ramp, the new entry stairs.
New ramp, new entry stairs, gravel stops, light fixtures. Cast iron railings,
Slate roof repair,
slate roof repair,
skylight.
dormers, and skylights.
This would be accepting or removing out. We are moving to prove everything not be listed in B explicit.
That's right. That's right.
So there's a motion.
Before we move on, staff's recommendation for stairs, keeping stairs and stuff, is that?
We have to,
We get to see that, right?
Yeah.
Update in the documents.
well, we can condition the motion so long as the applicant is. So that would be also condition on the keeping the stairs. So there's a motion, let's do a second. Okay, now we're into discussion. So why don't we, in the context of discussion, outline and propose motion B, just so that it's part of our discussion, so that we then already know what
Sure.
we're proposing.
That sounds great.
In the context of A.
Okay. Well, definitely the front door, the main door. That's one big piece.
Actually, all wood doors that be historic, right?
All wood doors, right? I guess if we even back up, we need to identify the full scope of the openings because there's a lot that's still boarded up. So we need more study on the existing conditions. And further review of all the wood doors. Looking at the applicant's proposed solutions
For finish.
for finish. Correct. Got the canopy.
And, yeah, and any rebuilding scope to go with it.
Yes.
The roof.
And the curved decorative roof.
Right. For decorative roof, and then, is infill at the stair something that we need to see as part B as well? I'm sorry, I shouldn't say infill, but the proposal to either put a window or a door to replicate the existing door, is that something we want to see or approve with the staff review?
If the existing door can be maintained and simply covered over versus replaced, that's up to the applicant. It's generally the policy that if you're just going to, if you need a window there, I think that's a different discussion, so. What do you think? Do you think you need a light?
That is the vehicle.
The one is the great. So
Is the applicant willing to make an amendment, or do you want us to lay aside and just decide with the follow-up?
I think we can say that because they're,
So why don't we just continue that, we'll continue that door as part of this next piece.
Yeah. Okay. Any more discussion? Can we vote on A?
Okay, finishing up discussion, I want to make sure staff is clear what's in A and what would be in B. So, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Abstention. Okay, now we have the context laid out for a motion in case B. If somebody would like to make that motion, we can just say to make motion B, since we've already essentially itemized what it would be.
Okay. Regarding HR 2302-017, I move to have a part B, which will be a continuation of the application
As discussed.
as discussed.
Second.
The motion in a second. Is there any further discussion about the content of B? Here are what we've already repeated in the discussion of A.
The only thing I would add, in general with the applicant, if there are things that we did not discuss in terms of things that are boarded up, that just aren't in the packet and we're not aware of, and there's historical value to those items. In general, I'd like to just make a statement that we'd like to understand all the existing conditions so that next time we come here, we're still not asking questions about the existing state of items.
And even as the project moves forward, should something additional pop up and be discovered, it is easier to approach staff, raise it. It may not necessarily not even need to come back before this commission, and it's a staff approvable item as well. So don't fear coming back because you find something. We just would appreciate that if, because of the project complexity and size, there's something additional, we just step forward and honesty system is usually required to do so, and raise that. So.
Yeah, big bill.
Get it.
really happened quite right about a couple of weeks, I think.
Hopefully we're getting some work moving, so that helps.
Yeah.
So having a discussion complete, everybody move to voting? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion B passes as well, and it's that part is complete.
Thank you. Oh, you have another.
Yeah. Landscape. Okay, so for this application, this is also for 420 East 19th Avenue. It's HR 2302-018. It's for landscaping and sign improvements. So this includes relocating, power washing, existing masonry pier, expanding and installing new parking lots as shown in the materials, installing new pedestrian walks, including gravel, and and installing steel handrails. Applicant has removed the wood deck overlooks from the scope. So, continuing on, there's proposal to install area lighting, to install a chiller unit and enclosure and a generator and bollards. And then for the chiller unit, there's an update that the applicant submitted today, so I don't believe it's on your pinwheels, but we already have it on materials on the screen. That is to move the chiller closer to the building.
Just so we can know where is that change?
Yes, so it would be at the very end, or close to the end of the materials. They also provided the spec sheets. Okay, so that would be
I have a hard time with that.
Yes, we can pass something that Dave. Okay,
Should be able to connect.
so just it moves from over here to there.
Yeah. Okay, so installation sports courts. Installing a new 6-foot chain link perimeter fencing, installation of a new fencing gates, repairing existing stack stone wall, installing new metal benches, stainless steel bike racks, trash receptacles, cedar plantals, and a 25-foot flagpole, as well as installation of trees, shrubs, grasses, ground covers, and perennials. Staff just wants to note that the applicant has oriented their site work to retain mature trees, so we do appreciate that. We recommend fencing at the west elevations, so the fencing is located material and just using chain link fencing. And that's typical of the city of Eastern for site improvements. That's anywhere that's not right next to the roads, like the railroad probably has some other some that require that chain link fencing. And then the commission will also need to discuss landscaping hardscape reports in their area. To have that photo of that as well. This photo on the screen, some discussion of the proposal for that area. At the February business meeting, the commission requested the key of each item, including labels for fencing, bollard, bike route benches, etc. for clarification. She requested an existing condition drawing to give what's existing and what's proposed. The commission asked about the brick pier proposed for relocation, where the pier will be moved to the original location, and photos of that. The commission asked if the sports courts will have fencing, material if so, and requested drawings of any fencing. Since the business meeting feedback, the applicant has submitted additional materials and noted that the overlook is being removed scope at this time. And also the applicant had updated the proposal to request feedback regarding that landscape area. So overall, staff, the recommendation is to recommend approval of application HR 2302-018 at 420 East 19th Avenue with the following stipulations, and that is to recommend using fencing that is metal material and avoid use of chain link fencing applications other than the railroad property or the railroad. And then since the update, we also have that discussion of the courtyard landscape area as well. So the overall basis for the staff recommendation is the city code standards for site improvements, letters A, B, and D, as well as the guidelines for fences, which is on page 76.
Real quick, if you don't mind me just saying, since we don't have this picture in front of us that shows the relocated is our. You. I had no objection to it.
We do have a digital version, which is,
I just wanted,
yeah.
yeah,
just
then you can at least compare that to what's in the files and everything.
The last time, this is the. Fellow commissioner had talked about the masonry here, and I'm not aware of there was a previous case where that was important, and so he wanted to understand better whether the masonry here is moving, not moving, how, so each of those details, if you can talk to that.
Maybe go back to that couple sheets. Right there. So if you can zoom in on that. And so right now, there's a pier. There's piers at the corners, and the pier. This pier,
This one right here.
this pier is missing. But the cap is still out. And so the cap is on site. I thought we submitted a photo.
There's a photo of a cap sitting on the right.
That's what's happening. So we found the cap, but the pier itself is not there. So the intent is to rebuild. So the intent is to rebuild the pier.
Right.
And in its historical location, there's a companion pier down here in the south. And we think there used to be a fence.
Yeah, probably.
Which is gone. These two piers exist today, and we are relocating this pier to accommodate a widening this.
That makes sense to
So-
me, like, that's a case or precedent of like, being flexible for modern city.
Yeah.
I think Fire truck
Sure.
buses, all sorts of things, right?
They're making the effort to rebuild the other
Yeah.
tier.
Yeah. Then, for the recreation athletic field, we talk about fencing.
There's no fencing.
So. Talk to me about one thing I noticed here on, if you can go back up to the color side plane. So we talked about where is the canopy that we just talked about in the previous case?
It's right here.
Okay. So
Also, maybe to the left side. Yeah.
so it was great, it would be great.
Yeah, right.
So one thing I want to point out, just going back to the picture, that I just started realizing not in the previous case species, the angle was up. And now that I look down, there's steps going down a couple of steps, and there's handrails. And what is planned to happen in this area with that hardscape?
Well, that'll be a bus lay-by, so school buses will use that straw.
So you would assume blowing away the rails there, blowing away the steps there.
Yeah,
just kind of
or
flat.
like, who would be interested. So, yeah, I was assuming the steps were gone and we need all that room between curb and the case of bill and kids to go on.
Because you do have a picture, I think, of that, correct? Yeah, so that's just scroll down just a little bit. It is, my question though comes back to, stat, for example, I mean, this is, that looks like not even just it's concrete or it's stone, but how does staff feel about the demolition again? Your demolition of historic fabric.
It's important to keep an indication of that open, so. As designers. Stair. Potentially.
It looks like 3 steps down or something.
Yeah. You okay with letting it go? The interest of it as a school.
So part of the rebirth of the structure.
Still keeping the design, that indication of the design canopy. Or whether that's, slab or doing recessed though to show.
And that, by the way, that's supposed to be the cap.
That's the kind. This is what the piers look like. This is a different pier, but
Yeah.
So then revision 94 coming, the applicant is going to switch to a non-chain link product and move to metal fencing.
yes, so we can speak to that if you like. So there should be an exhibit in there that shows the fencing types.
Sorry for buying in the drawings, it's just easier.
It's actually, so the only area where we're using the chain link is here. To connect, and I believe there's an existing chain link fence over this time, so there'll be one of those piers right there. Here, companion pier across the street.
L2, I think it's probably the second sheet.
Yeah, it's close.
So right here.
Right on. So right there is where we're showing black. It's a black vinyl coated chain link that we're gonna just connect in with whatever's there today.
Where's the where's the extent of the existing chain line?
It runs along the backs of these properties here all the way.
Gotcha, and that's all obviously gonna remain. Right?
Yeah, and we're improving this edge of the parking lot, so that's why. And then the fencing, in yellow here will be more of a picket rail fence.
So if we can make sure that that is done in a follow-up. it's important to be able to see products that are proposed. I know we've had concern about extensive fences in historic districts around buildings. I mean, we just had a case, I think, the Westford Street project. I mean, we went through a lot of discussion about fasteners and conditions and product, et cetera. Again, we have to treat a single-family homeowner equal to an institution, and vice versa. So we just need to make sure we're scrutinizing that as much. That also includes submitted.
Okay, I believe that is actually, should be identified on here, so if you, it's on, sheet L form two. Yeah, these are just what it looks like imagery. So that's the fence type.
Does that have any exposed fasteners or anything?
No.
It should. It's steel, not aluminum.
It is steel, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
Yeah.
So staff, I know you originally made the recommendation on recommending using fencing material to avoid use of chain link and other locations other than the rear of the property near the railroad. But according to this packet, that would then be addressed.
So there's still the final.
On that small section, how do you,
Extend an existing chain,
It's there today, in fact.
driving the ball difference.
I think that would be okay, maybe extending the existing chain. I know it, I guess to stipulate, if we were to support that, I just want to be really clear for record that we're just extending precedent of an existing item in maybe a non-primary location.
And for clarity, what is there right now? It's chain link for there right now.
Plus the age.
That's the other thing, it's already not that we want, but because it's addressed, there's the another length of it. My mind, if you now, you can, it's just for that whole thing, it starts to be more odd than.
I think we need to verify the condition and the intent of we just keep us there.
I'd be comfortable along the backs of those properties, given the unique scenario.
We happen to have an image of that stretch of fencing.
I don't think I do. No.
I didn't receive it.
Google Street Image. Building the piers and all the other ornamental fence implications. So they're on this one.
Yeah, it's.
In the future, let's say the whole length of that fence were to change, then I don't think we should assume that in the future if that gets replaced, then it's people the same. This is only for the exception condition. It's replacing the.
I don't think.
Okay. It was to HR 2302-018 or 20 East 19th Avenue. We can discuss with the cabinet. approved as presented by the applicant.
Second.
Oh, wait, did we discuss the courtyard?
Oh, no, we didn't. Get back.
Well, we can still have discussion here, even if there's a second on the floor.
Second.
Okay. We can still discuss.
Okay.
You always vote in there, you always make motions.
For minutes.
Okay, let's talk about the courtyard.
So the courtyard is still a little bit in design for condition today. It's the entry, the main entry to the courtyard is to the building is through this door here, which is 2 feet lower than the main elevation of the courtyard. Where this photo is taken as a set of kind of grand stairs. Flank. Historically, you can see in the original site plan, there was kind of a Y access connected from the stairs to this main entry. See. Yeah.
That's the
that-
second sheet.
Yeah, that largely, I think, has been, but just the construction activity that are going down there, probably been through.
So you can probably zoom in on that. So was this stuff there, but some of the stuff like trash during construction?
Well, yeah, so that photo we were just looking at was taken from this level here. This is the upper level here. This is up about 10 feet, 10, 12 feet.
But was the Y sidewalk, if you will, was that there up until recently? Yeah, I think it needs to be a kind of a conversation that is actually destroying historic fabric, like. And is not approved.
Yeah, when I said, I don't know either, but I do know there's construction activity now. I didn't expect it.
One of the things though, that probably just needs to be clear though, is that, just protecting historic fabric seems to be. Potentially, there's a lot of exposure here and a lot of potential for historic fabric to be lost. And just that reminder passed on to your client is probably very important.
I think they were for concrete sidewalks. Should. What?
It just, we also didn't approve a demo plan in this courtyard, I don't believe. So even if it were old sidewalks, they're now no longer there. That's just.
And again, I don't want to misspeak because they may still be there, so I don't know.
Well, based on that photo, it's,
Yeah.
it doesn't look like a lot left.
Yeah, it's.
So I guess my other question is, are they protecting the original stairs that go down into those areas? Just, while today they may be okay when the site's in full scale construction though, I've been on many institutional or bigger jobs, is if they're not protecting it, they won't be protected. Once they run some walls across it or other things and just. Can you look at a Google area?
I do,
One stop shop usually actually has excellent newer areas too.
What is that?
The city's in zoning portal that mapping has current aerials up to like only 6 months. They're shooting every year. So I mean, I can see the sun. So that's where we're right here, this capture date imagery. I mean, it says 2023 imagery. And here we go. This is. You can actually probe Google on what year the area was
Look
taken.
at that.
So my concern is we see a lot of dirt, and you said there's a dirt ramp going down there, is what's happened to these staircases that go in each direction already and how much, I think we need to have some photos of what's happening in that area looking the other way. You took a picture from the stairs down, we'll walk down the building, I'll take a picture of the opposite way, might be good for file.
The design, future design, when I say working, I think, and I can't tell, but I think there are some elements here. Something happening. You can see that. There's some kind of patterning with vegetation, I don't know. Might be good to investigate.
I think there's actually like a planting pattern in this.
Okay. That doesn't look that random. Who knows? I can, maybe, this extends. Maybe, I don't know. Looks like something.
And in there somewhere, you guys, well, I shouldn't say it. Typically, when you go and you start a project, you go take existing condition photos of everything before anyone starts tearing stuff up. So you guys might go back to your archives and see what was there at some point before the demo all started. We could take a look at that. I think that might be helpful.
This building, I recall when we had a request for demolition of the chimney and some other things, there was access somewhere to like original drawings on the school. I've seen very old drawings on the school. So what was going on in this area that
Never original building. A lot.
I mean, all in all, the concept looks like you're trying to recreate this anyways with a modification that involves a ramp, which you gotta make accessibility.
Sure.
So I'm not offended by what's proposed either.
One of the things I'd love to get this commission's opinion is just that is the right. One of the concepts we're exploring is creating maybe a slightly altered circulation pattern down there, which would never ADA access to that door. Eliminate the need to have a true radiating ramp and a sloping sidewalk. More inclusive pattern down there.
So would you maybe start kind of this circle and then just slope downward? Is that?
Close to that, it's something like that nature. So it would, I guess what we're trying to do is not look like someone who
Ramp.
So that's one of the, but it might alter a little of that original. See.
If you could just even just retain along the sides of that, maybe a little bit for the purposes of doing that. I mean, I see it,
Yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
leaving more planting area and green area intact from a historic sense, and maybe even being able to maintain the grade if you can just slope the sidewalk.
Yeah, that's what we're considering. We talked about that. And so. I guess my thing, we're not approving this program today, so. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. So we might as well discuss. Well, so where we are headed with this is, the owner is interested in a very low maintenance space. One that is still to be used. So one of the things that we're exploring is the use of different aggregates or other material, maybe pervious, maybe impervious. But it would be like a lower maintenance. So, just from a pure maintenance standpoint. Worried about the equipment down there. Come up with creative.
So about including like turf.
Well, that's what
I mean, if kids have to play in this area, it's a school, maybe there's a balance.
we've been kind of exploring the ideas of synthetic. So it's a mix of things that we can do to still make it an amenity, make it inclusive, respect the historical nature of it, but so sure. Spaces, and that's, there's specific concern about it.
Although the technical owner of this property is out of state.
Yeah.
I guess my similar to how we talk about architectural facades and stuff. If the landscape has a historic significance, record of what it might look like, and does intend to switching it to maybe pebbles or chocolate. I mean, it has to be a good reason and why we're doing it, and not again, so again, maintenance just like anywhere else, right? Like the wood door, just maintenance can enough. Again, I think that's enough of a reason.
No, that's something for you to see. Change of use, like what does it mean? Like you
Yeah,
said,
but what's
is
the
it- you're
reason?
making some sitting areas, you're using it as a rec area.
Yeah.
Tell us about the program
Right.
and the space, I think.
Yeah, that would be, yeah,
Yeah.
some more logic to that.
I agree. And what would we have said if it weren't torn up at this point?
I mean, my theory is it's like at minimum, we should see this Y-shaped sidewalk with this circle and it come back and be the most prominent element and then have discussion thereafter, right? I think I do laud their interest in sort of not doing the huge handicap ramp.
Sure.
I think that's a good thing, is it leaves more green space intact, but, you know.
Long as it's green space.
Right.
I
and
mean,
it-
that's the,
Right, and it wasn't, you know, didn't have those challenges when this building was built, so.
That's what we're trying to do, is kind of balance that need for accessibility, respect for the historic nature of.
I think some additional photos of understanding what is going on here. I think it would be important to know what your grades and grading is. Where historically the grade placed up against the building. And what
Yeah.
that would look like in a reconfigured condition,
Shouldn't change
too much.
too much at all. Rating is fairly flat down there. So very. Exception to the door we made, sloping sidewalk.
So right now, our motion up. Except for everything. And that would be a piece continued. Yeah.
important.
For condition on it.
Is it on, is it even on it? You just brought up that we should discuss it.
Yes, it's something that,
Yes, it's not even in.
So it's discussed, right, just to be clear, we're not approving.
it's like a conceptual.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think it's helpful to hear this discussion, so. No makeup.
Okay. So I think we will.
Further discussion. To offer a vote here, which all those in favor say aye.
Right.
Aye. Opposed, abstention, which is.
Thank you.
So you got some homework yet on the follow.
Reminding myself, you remember.
But if you could probably have my stuff.
Something on the back, but.
Yeah.
I know, sorry for you.
It's
not-
really
not-
tough. I know.
Let the record reflect it's coming back into. So then I think what do we have left here?
6 is candidated.
Yes, so they've asked for your submission.
What, so generally, just so I'm aware, what was the materials that they needed?
I think they focused mostly on the diversity. The proposal as, well, that initially was to apparently all the different services. And then sort of configuration, you got mission and staff, which is this meeting. So there, we have historic photos that don't show some improvements, those that should.
Thank you.
Please, so there's a photo of people. And that's, we saw that, we're like, oh, that's as clear as it gets. Yeah.
Obviously, one thing.
Put the separate. It's really just photos of like.
It had a, because there was a, you know, the applicant had requested removing the gymnasium complex and everything off.
Hasn't heard of
Yeah.
that.
There was a very good historic photo of this.
It's a question of the business meeting,
Yeah.
just referred. So the answer to that is yes, it is. So check, it's on.
We,
It's not part of the.
yeah, these are the photos that, those are. Of course, we don't know the exact window detail.
No, so. Not this one. This is not a group photo, right? That has exactly.
There are some pretty.
Yeah, I mean, that's got the lights on it and everything. All in the pattern, what's right here.
Yeah, so the addition, the other discussion was
Yeah.
that one. Historic designation did not include that addition, so we were asking, do we even care, or do we as a commission, do we have to vote on?
We still have, I think, to pass some motion for demolition. And we did exempt that piece of it. I know the national, I kind of follow it. Because it's in audit. But I think national parks is a place our decisions on theirs, but even they are. I did have a question on demolition, however. If you can go to Google, in the applicant's packet, they don't speak to us. So if you can go around the side of this building, up the street. Yeah, actually, just go a little bit more. So on their floor plans, they don't talk about all of this stuff. There's all the single story stuff that's not shown as a demolition request. So I think that that needs to be just, you know, it's very clear that that's later intrusion and what their goals are, but we just want to make sure that it's just a thorough application. I think they have this problem on both sides of the building, or maybe at least I caught it on this.
I guess especially.
Yeah.
How do you treat that?
Right, so demo is demo, and so, right, they're gonna have to have a preservation plan about, you know, you peel that off, what do you do to the surface material? If it's just discolored, but it's still there, is it there? They're gonna have to clean off anything off of it, yes, you know. And maybe, I don't know if have you been, has staff been out to this property at all? Maybe
Working
worth
to.
going down a trip here, because it's, I think this is another complex project.
I'm just waiting to hear back.
And, you know, this one though is different, I believe, than the gymnasium, because this is demolition off of the structure that is listed in the versus the demolition of the gymnasium is explicitly left off in listing. So, you know, there could be like on that, but this clearly wouldn't be something we would want. So, and I'm not opposed to it. I just want to make sure that we have it accurately reflected. So they're not doing demo work that we didn't authorize, or we had too many great times that happens. But that's why I'm also kind of thinking if staff can go out there, I think it's worth the value of just seeing, is there any original? Are there any original doors left on this property? Just, you know, explore the complex. And I remember from when Landmarks raised the concern about this building's added to a couple of times, so it's got some history to it. So. Those kinds of things. So is there a motion to table?
So moved.
Motion is second.
Second.
Having a motion second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Case continued. Says table. So we're on to 623 Wilson Avenue. Is the applicant?
So we might just move some, it is conceptual applications.
I have to say, I'm looking at the rendering, like, Wow, they actually like drove around the neighborhood and looked at what exists. General form concept. They've done a better job than some other people.
History behind it is that the original picture, which was like '90s, stuff like that. So the, owner at that time, the violations, they have built this deck. To address the code violation, that owner was approved to rebuild a through porch. Unfortunately, something just never followed through, it wasn't followed that resolution. So we still have that 10 years. Our neighboring homes that do have hit porches following our altar is still have this house, since we know what the original design is, our recommendation was to build either some sort of hip roof, not necessarily having to rebuild the specific one that was lost, but to fit in between the doors, to kind of match the roof up on the other sides of it, as well as base, using the evidence that we have of the trying to match that. Plans for approved that. Yeah, it's definitely ones that follow less.
So the application that we're looking at the end of this packet, it looks like it's dated 96, 97.
Right.
So this particular application was representing the historic porch, like a rebuild of the historic porch?
Yeah, so those materials are what staff had found in the file. It's supposed to be the drawings, at the time, because the owner they then had to rebuild some drawings, and that's what was approved. For some reason, it just never happened.
Gotcha.
Fast forward some years.
What about the photo then? What does that photo represent?
That
That
one
one.
is the house with the porch, it was removed, so it's the MLS photo, 60s or 50s.
Oh, okay,
Yes, we do have a photo of that, what the porch had looked like.
I see. The roof was throwing me off.
So they just have no interest in building than what was previously.
No, I think their preference is to build. Show. And keeping.
Why are there
But the
different?
deck in the nineties, isn't that code violation at this point?
It's been so long that I don't think, like, if they wanted to just keep it, I don't think to remove it, but since.
But wouldn't that have been part of their, so I guess my question goes back to when a drawing of the COA was done in 97, was it to simply dress up the deck that was already there?
The one in the 90s, the owner was.
You put the stores, but leave the deck.
That's what it says in the application, existing deck. And shown like building up above the deck,
Yeah.
new rails and columns and roof. Enclosed, yeah.
To recreate the porch, for us, it's been so long, they were,
Sure.
those who implemented it. Some sort of version of it. Match that architecture, not. These are doors, visually, or actually. It's there, and then.
Just,
The photos.
it's just hard to take this house and not do what's sort of showing in those drawings on back in 96, 97.
So
And
that,
you can only do a piece of it.
but if you go look at that photo, it's, it is, they are two pieces.
That's one.
Might just be the awnings in between. So
But honestly, they,
It's sort of a confusing photo. I
Yeah,
was
It just looks like
confused
there's
by
a little, it looks like there's a little sag going on there.
Yeah.
by that time.
Yeah, we ought to just do the one piece.
Right.
You can.
Right, I mean, it's like you're like, let me just do that, like pretend that doesn't exist, and I think that that's sort of hard because of the way that the brick of the house works and the roof lines and. I mean, I'm trying to visualize like, you know, if I look at the drawings from, you know, page 14 or 15, and I'm trying to picture like how this thing looks if you half built it, and it's just sort of, you know. So it's like, yes, so I mean, it's trying to visualize like
How, yeah,
building just this piece of it here, and
that's it.
I feel like it just feels uncomfortable.
Well, in knowing that these are already, strong already approved. It's supposed to.
Right.
Or building it.
I feel like getting a new COA to just do this again is maybe the more appropriate thing. I guess if we didn't have this drawing or this photo, what then also like looks appropriate. But see, that's the problem is we have the photo photos there.
Yeah. Yeah, without this, if what they're showing right now looks fine, I mean, just like without getting the details, it kind of matches the neighborhood and all that. But we have some context in the past.
Since it doesn't exist today, though, like you were saying, it actually within our purview to compel them to match.
So it's been so long if they want, let's say, retain. If they to replace or alter to see that. At least. I mean, certainly rebuilding it like they would be compatible. Some other version of that would be compatible.
Oh, I see. Okay. And since we have the historic evidence of what it was, right? Yeah.
Answer type.
I think when I look at, by the way, when I look at page number 8, so my challenge is like, this doesn't feel in proportion as a construction drawing. So, you know, I'm not seeing the headers on the windows and the correct door, and something feels really off on all these dimensions. They're not construction documents or documents that we. So the elevation as a whole, this thing feels skewed because it's not right. When I look at a picture of the house, I see headers above the windows that are stone and some other things that.
Yeah.
You're actually gonna set this thing up higher, and it's probably not even gonna be sufficient. You know, this is not an acceptable edge treatment in a historic district. It's gotta have soffit and gutter and a lot of things that come.
Yeah, that's
together.
fine.
Look at the. This isn't accurate, maybe just, if you look here, the window head to the sill, and then just look at the, right, I mean, there's too much distance, which makes that maybe look a little bit more
I don't
assumed,
know.
but that window's actually there. Reality, I think the sill of that window is more like that.
It's missing the code brick.
That's right, yeah, and it's not, I don't think it's a semicircle, I think it's more of a.
Yeah, I think the drawings are definitely conceptual. So
Now that looks more developed right there.
Well, but even this, if you see the oval semicircle where they call it looks like a board or something, but that's not the case.
Well, I mean, this is like photorealism
Yeah.
renderings. So
What's happening at the window though?
I asked
that's
about that.
that's part of my question. It's like now it's like pushed up, but then like it's running into the window. So I feel like if this is the approach at the right scale, maybe this is an okay solution, but we've got to see measured drawings for
Yeah.
measured.
And now
that
it's-
actually are- Yeah. Well, this is, again, I go back, this is just somebody's photorealistic kind of thing where they're trying.
I asked exactly that, and I think our explanation was maybe it's perspective, that's why it looks off. Because the elevation looks fine.
Can you get a picture of the house as is today? I mean, that's what we're missing. We're missing seeing these things, like these should not be covered over maybe with the porch. Like the porch roof itself really shouldn't come past that stone header. And it should frame out with columns out. And There's also other, there's this piece over here, I mean, this is probably not appropriate to say. And the other thing I'm gonna ask is staff, this deck looks like it's falling down. I mean, I know we can't require removal, but I would have to question, by the time they go to put some columns in, I mean, what's the footing condition here or here? And is this even?
Isn't that part of the application to rebuild those?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay, good.
So if they're gonna rebuild that though, I mean, when we've had instances of where something was muddled or modified. We have, bring it back into something that's correct. We've not
Sure.
allowed a rebuild per se, because it's just not correct what was done. I mean, this would be allowing a rebuild of a muddled situation that should have never happened in the first place.
Yeah. The other thing, I think to express to the applicant is that, and we know it's conceptual, but the review of their application is gonna rely heavily upon how they detail.
Yes.
And if they're not getting the existing conditions and scale and relationship of all the elements correct, the addition that they're doing will be viewing it in a skewed sense because the context isn't right. So we're going to scrutinize the detail of the existing conditions. Because, for example, like the roof didn't make sense with the window and the scale was off in either of their options.
I mean, there's a door with a transom, and I think it's important where the roof falls and how it interacts with the sill.
Exactly.
It's all these-
By the time, I guess you're right, other than actually put a roof, it will be very shallow. You won't get the peak.
That's right.
And it's gonna be a world of difference that, so if you have a column here, your other column needs to probably be somewhere here, but it's in line with this, and how does this gutter and cornice turn the corner and go back? And it's really probably dying into this piece, it's not dying into this. So how does this all come together? How does it flash?
This is why the original house had it.
Yeah, so maybe from a conceptual standpoint, if we can offer feedback, it's that we may be okay entertaining a gable-ended roof, if I'm hearing everything correctly, but it's gonna be the devil's in the details.
Yeah,
And executing drawings that actually look.
and I don't think we would recommend covering up windows or.
Correct. And I would refer them back to the level of detail in the 97 packet is very good.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was somebody
Yeah.
exposed. The semicircle portion was covered just slightly though.
No, I think that you couldn't.
you just couldn't see
You
it.
can see it, yeah.
Probably on the
Not,
under-
you know, under,
underside.
yeah, you can see it
Yeah.
from underneath, but not
Yeah.
from the.
Right.
So I guess, they would need to show appropriate railing details, post details, what they're going to do for, footings and interacting around columns. What do the columns look like size wise? What are the columns themselves?
Yep.
What's the roofing material? How is the gutter treated? Does the main roof of the house have, tinner's red caps on it or something? How does that tie together?
Right. And then on page 7, 8, and 9, what's the purpose of showing the different materials?
So the original conceptual proposal was to do the mix of materials and use metal. Based on just general feedback from the business meeting, they submitted an updated proposal to just do all of it. They want.
But they're not proposing to do different siding that one. Because that looks like a horizontal siding.
It's just the.
That's correct.
They've got some big mature trees there too.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. It probably doesn't make sense to nitpick all the little conceptual things, but, well, we wouldn't be in support of exterior materials, right? I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah, and this applicant. The different raw materials, there should be. Just,
There's a really good detail on that 97 thing, that shows the soffit, and the overhang, and the 1x4 tree, and the 1x10, and, this whole interaction. And we gotta see kind of that level if they come back with drawings that are, I guess, have some good meaningful detail. I think we are all saying we would be okay with a gabled and two-columned approach since the original structure is gone.
There could be, and I know we're not supposed to design, but if we wanted to stick with a hip, there is a way you could do a hip here. Wow, you might get a weird interaction.
Gosh, just pitch pocket a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sensitivity of this zone right here that's being taken up by the roof, I think is really important.
And then how do they treat the deck really that is being left open? I think it's important that they put railings on it that are meant for a historic district as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that one, in that case, there was some discussion we had last time. This is the. We looked at like the. Downside, that this current rating, while it doesn't seem historic, if you look at the stuff around. I mean, I think. Question around is historic, would we want it wood, would it want it, I think.
We have to be in line with what's in there. There's handrail guidance in the guidelines. So I think they need to be consistent with the handrail guidelines. They're not gonna be able to do just open rails because they're gonna have to be modern building code.
Hmm.
Probably through, next door, there's something about wholesale wrought iron.
Yeah,
basement.
that's
You
what,
wouldn't see
there's
that.
all this odd stuff everywhere.
You wouldn't see that.
And the house on towards the north, kind of seen, would they build, trying to do something similar? Yeah, all these houses on the house.
Yeah. That one, the curved window though is really beautiful. So like exposing that.
That's true,
Yeah,
yeah,
so-
yeah.
It's pretty nice.
I think two doors down,
Would get the
what
morning light over
Mike is
that
bringing up
cover.
is there's handrails two doors down, but those look really recent and those do not, I mean, I don't think that's an approval by this commission.
I think that's what they're trying to.
Even though now pans of the left, that's probably in keeping with what's appropriate. So, unfortunately, the applicant needs to probably take their cues from what should be done, not what people may have done without approval. It's unfortunate when we get applicants that come in and say, but my neighbor has it, but your neighbor never. Or before district. See, everybody consistently has these wide roofs. So my only other
Yeah,
question
very-
is, if by allowing just the two-column roof, does that look completely out of character? Because everybody else has got
Yeah, the more we look.
spanning it the entire front.
Mm-hmm.
If the applicant would go back to what was approved, that would be.
That'd be a slam dunk.
That would be, yeah. that
I
would
would
be-
recommend staff approval on that previous package. It's an issue with new COA.
What's looking across the street, is it?
They all span kind of.
I guess once you do this, the drawings, you won't have them.
I just look at like the form, everybody has the full span with front. So by allowing the half covering, is that just not looking right?
Again, yeah, because we have historic images. We're not even making this up, or we know what walls.
Mm-hmm. And the rest of the fabric of the
Yeah,
street.
street adds to that.
Yeah.
It's not the building, it's also from the neighborhood, district.
Contextually in the district, it looks like the district precedent is span left to right completely across the front.
I feel like that. Go back and think. Maybe the half. Wants to be the full thing of it. But then that's
But
the
the
full
bubble
They're
stretch.
still full.
And see, that's what I'm saying, the only way to do this is if you do it for a very, if that little section, 1/3, you won't get any angle. It's shallow, it'll be pretty much flat.
I mean, it's like you have to look at every one of these photos. It's like, okay, what is that? You know, that's what you're getting. That's what you're getting. I just don't know if that,
Yeah.
like, this entire block, I think, sort of really has. And we have the photo. I go back to.
Yeah, we have a photo.
We're not just sort of making it up.
Yeah.
Arbitrary.
Maybe this is more personal opinion. I feel like it could be done with the smaller piece, especially with that beautiful window, and you expose that beautiful window, but I think the stronger historical arguments.
It's a full thing.
I mean, I like, yeah,
And it would protect the deck, actually.
Right.
And so there's a functionality to it.
so are we generally in consensus on providing the applicant support a
Full, yeah.
full width.
Yeah.
Okay, any?
Whole business.
Okay, no new business and old business. Move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Um,
Okay, we are adjourned 6:16 PM.